Hey, how you doing this Bleak season? Today I am bringing you my review of Vaesen, Mythic Carpathia. Yep, book I've been waiting for a long time. A huge fan of Vaesen. Any of you who've been following my work know I love Vaesen. It's a great system. It's a game that is primarily a investigation game based on Nordic folklore. The players play characters who have the ability to see these creatures called Vaesen, who are these folk mythical creatures that sometimes cause trouble for humans and sometimes have troubles caused to them. And the players investigate these cases. They've since expanded it a few times. One, they've gone to Mythic Ireland and Britain, which was a great book, also a great expansion. And now they've gone to Mythic Carpathia. And if you know your vampire lore, you know that's where Dracula and all those fancy little creatures come from. So I was very excited to get that, as you know, I'm also very much into vampire and whatnot. So I was very fortunate to receive a review copy from Free League. However, there is no request that I do anything specific with the review, so you're getting my honest take on this book. Like most, or if not all of the Free League products, it was done through Kickstarter. It was a successful Kickstarter. The book, like every other Free League product, is just a fantastic physical artifact, really is what it is. The book feels good in the hand. The binding's great. The layout's good. I love the font that they use. It's a pleasure to read this book, really. The art inside, of course, filled with art from Johan Egerkrans, who wrote the original Vaesen book that, or through his illustrations, created the original idea for the first Vaesen book. And the book is filled with his illustrations again, and others, which I'll get to in a second. But just so quick review of the book. The first part is kind of a history lesson now, as opposed to Mythic Ireland and Britain, which had mainly one writer. This has several writers. I think if there's one weakness in the book is that you can feel the unevenness in the writing, and you can kind of feel the lack of a singular vision, kind of guiding and holding everything together. The first part I found pretty interesting. It's very much a cut and dry history of the region. I don't know to what degree that's going to interest just everybody if you're not really into history and kind of seeing how that area has evolved into what it is at the moment of the game. It may not be the most interesting part to read. It is kind of dryly written, not necessarily any more engaging than an actual history book would be. And my biggest, I guess, gripe about it is that I didn't feel that any of it was very closely tied to the Carpathia of the book. So in some ways it feels like this is the actual history of the place, and then we get into the Mythic Carpathia part. I think that having a single writer with a singular vision, going through all that and finding ways to connect all these elements to the story, I think would have been better. That's my only real gripe with the book, is that I find the first part is a little bit kind of patchwork and kind of all over the place, still filled with totally useful information, great information. But I think your mileage on it will vary. After that, we have the city of Prague, which is described in great detail. This part's a lot better. There's tons of connections to the world of Vaesen, tons of story hooks. In addition to the city itself and places in it, you have a discussion of the society, which is the group of investigators in the city. It felt very distinct from the other ones we've seen before. Again, filled with tons of story hooks. The society house itself is super interesting, laid out in a lot of details. And again, a lot of room for game masters to grab little bits and pieces and kind of run with them or create their own version of it. There's a map of the city. There's also a big map that comes with it. I'll put an insert of it. There's a big map of the Carpathian area, and then a big map of Prague. The other side's a big map. Big Mac. It's not a Big Mac. Big map of Prague. One of the things they do in this, which I kind of liked and I felt it kind of worked. I hope this is not something that's going to happen too often. But they used a lot of art that comes from, it's not at all AI, but it comes from the public domain. So it's art from the era, paintings, what I've used from the era. Now, I think they work, they look great, they fit well in the story, and I think that a couple of them is great. I would hope that this wouldn't become a thing where we're seeing more and more public domain art rather than art created for this. Artists have to work. And also, the flavor is not quite there. It's close, but it's not quite there. When I see this, as much as it's a very beautiful painting, and I actually studied it for a while, looked at it, it was very nice. It does not give me the same amount of feel as this does, even if this is perhaps a simpler depiction of the same area. So for flavor, for atmosphere, I think that making sure we don't stray too far from the original art is important. That said, it didn't bother me too much, and there wasn't a ton of it, so I think it's all right. So we detail the Carpathian society in some amount of detail. Then the really fun part comes. You have a new archetype, the vampire hunter. There's not a lot of combat in Vaesen. There's not a lot of combat archetypes. It's nice to have one that's finally got a little bit of that. And it's just a cool, really applicable archetype for that type of game and that period and so on and so forth. So I quite enjoyed it. New talents for this archetype also, which were very good, like Hateful of Bloodsuckers, gain +2 to fear test when facing vampires of any sort or their minions. Impaler, gain +2 to close combat when using a stake. So this was a cool little addition. It's the only one they have, but I thought it was really cool and definitely something that I could see being used a lot. Then come the Vaesen themselves, the monsters themselves, and here is where the book really shines. There are some great additions to the bestiary. We have Baba Yaga herself. I showed you this earlier, but this is Baba Yaga, the witch, and it's interesting because she's presented not just as a creature to be hunted, but also as someone who could potentially help the players. There are several flavors of vampires, of course, this being Carpathia and being kind of primarily about that. There are Dampiers, half human, half vampires, as well as a bunch of other different creatures. Some completely horror, supernatural kind of creatures. Other drawn from folklore. The Strigoi is another relative of vampires. But for me, the one, of course, vampires themselves. I'll get to the other one in a second. Vampires themselves, again, with incredible art by Egerkrans. The vampire itself. None of these are overly powerful. I think they'd be fine in any kind of campaign you would have done. The Varkolak, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, is one of the best things I've seen in this game. It is a big wolf type of creature that has the power to actually eat the sun, much like a lot of folktales, Fenrir, for example, or Samargal, things of that nature. It actually has the power to devour heavenly bodies, as it's called, when it has become strong enough at the game master's discretion. A Varkolak can reach the sky and devour the moon or the sun, causing eclipses, complete darkness, and chaos. This is fantastic. This is absolutely amazing. It's great because it's a power that has a great doomsday effect, but it doesn't last forever. It can just be something that happens that has a tremendous impact on the world without destroying it. So there's that great kind of impending doom, mythical, very mythical quality to this power. You have to stretch your mind to accept it. Seeing this wolf jump up and eat the sun, we all know that's impossible, but you know, there is that mythical quality to that I think is missing sometimes in some of the creatures that we see, where it's sometimes draws from the folklore and the creatures themselves don't necessarily have a kind of very mythical feel aspect to them. But this creature absolutely does. You can bet your hiney that I'm using this creature sometime soon in my game. It is a phenomenal creature for me, worth the price of the book alone. If I was to get it, I would get it just for that. So fantastic creature, great addition to the world. Next, at the end of the book are four modules, 4 stories that you can run for your players. I don't run modules. I always write my own stories, so I don't know that I'm the best judge of them. The first one that I read of the 4 was really interesting. Makes use of the Verkolak. It's got a great kind of red herring central story to it. I think this one would be a very good story to run if you're looking for a way to use this creature, the Verkolak, and not too sure how to do it. This would be good. And the other 3 I skimmed, again, because I don't necessarily use these kinds of modules for my own games, but all of them have that same quality that a lot of these Vaesen stories have, which is they're very RP focused and very investigation focused. So they're not monster hunts, they're not combat, they're just very interesting. A lot of NPCs, well detailed, a lot of characters, and a lot of clues, investigation, background to all of it. So I find it a little good. And again, you have art for the various characters, and all that. So all in all, while I think perhaps Mythic Ireland and Britain was overall a better book, just because it had that evenness in the writing. It was written by Graham Davies, who's an old hand at all of this. So it had a very evenness of writing, and it had a very unique vision and kind of everything tied in together. So I think that book is probably better for that. But that being said, this is absolutely, if you're into Vaesen, this is absolutely worth getting. If you are just looking for a book that details that area at that time period in the 19th century, just to kind of get a feel for it and see what the city of Prague was like, what the environment was like, this is a great book for that. Also, it's got a lot. One of the things about Vaesen is it's really easily adaptable. I've done a ton of things with it. I've done Penny Dreadful games with it. I've done American Gods games with it. I've done American Gothic games with them. I've done Sherlock Holmes. I've done a bunch of stuff. So if you're doing any kind of investigative, whether it's supernatural or not, but any kind of investigative work, especially if you do have the supernatural, Vaesen's a great system to adapt for all that. And this book is, like all the other books, can be used on its own in your own setting and whatever you want to do. So I definitely think that it's worth getting this book if you're into the game, if you're into that period and that place, if you're into kind of vampire lore and mythical creatures and whatnot. It's got some stuff for everyone. And again, it's a beautiful book. I don't buy a lot of physical copies. I usually buy all the Free League ones. I don't get a ton of free ones. This is one of the rare ones that I've gotten, but I usually buy them because they're just very, very great quality. The book themselves are feel like an artifact of the period and the game, so that's great. So I would definitely recommend that. I was also sent a copy of the new campaign book that they've put out. I'll be looking at that soon. Even though I don't use that stuff, I'll read it more closely. And if you want to check out Vaesen in action, I have a ton of streams that I've done with it. I'll link them down in the chat below. Hope you enjoyed this. Recommend this book. Have fun haunting the hills of Carpathia, and whatever happens, don't get bit.